So you got your Raspberry Pi purchased, you got all the stuff you needed, and you got it set up. Hopefully you watched some of my other videos to get there, or you got there somehow. But now what? This is the number one question I always get is, okay, I bought the stuff, I followed a tutorial, what do I do now? And this part can be the most intimidating because with the Raspberry Pi, there's so much you can do. It can be a little overwhelming. So my advice to you as an educator is pick something simple and small to get started and build, or scaffold is the term we use, scaffold your learning. Build your way up. You'll find your confidence will grow as you start simple, but you'll also find alternative ways to think about how to use the Raspberry Pi as you go. You might build something real simple from one of these sites I'm going to show you, and then an idea will pop in your head. For most of us, myself included, it's hard to just kind of come up with these ideas out of thin air. And it's good to follow step-by-step tutorials as well, but for me, the whole reason I like making this so much is kind of that spontaneity and the spur of the moment, that serendipity where you're kind of aha and you think of something really cool and then you make it and you feel ownership in it, right? So projects that you find online are great, but you want to kind of make it your own as well. But for most people, the best place to start is some step-by-step instructions, and then I think you'll find it's easy to branch off from there. So the first place I always recommend to young makers, but again, adult learners, this could be useful to you as well, is the raspberrypi.org website. It's projects.raspberrypi.org, or if you just go to raspberrypi.org and click on projects, they have a whole section on getting started projects. And so I'm here and I'm scrolling down. Here's how to set your Raspberry Pi up. If you looked at the past video, you saw how to do that. You can start learning how to code with Scratch, which is a block-based programming language designed for young makers and young learners. You can learn to code with Python, right? So Python is a professional level text-based language. The Raspberry Pi is a great device to learn how to program in Python. Learn how to create websites, robots, apps. The sky is almost, is the limit here, right? And so if I go here and I choose any hardware, I can choose, Raspberry Pi, and it'll show me projects. I can build a LAMP, a Linux, Apache, MySQL, PHP, that's what that stands for, but basically a web server, right? And all sorts of fun projects, step by step on how to do it. Some of these projects will require peripherals and other things you need to buy, but it'll tell you what you need. So again, this is a great resource for young makers, but also if you're an adult learner and you're just getting started, try a couple of these projects out, and I promise you, you'll find a way to make it your own once you get started. The other recommendation I have for you, again, is from officially from Raspberry Pi. You notice a trend here, right? They make a ridiculous amount of material and they give it away all for free. You have to buy the Pi, but in terms of the educational material, they pretty much give it all away absolutely free from some generous donors basically in the UK. Remember, the Raspberry Pi is a UK device and kind of thought of and designed and developed and really took off in the UK, but certainly in the United States we've embraced it as well. And so they've had some very generous donors there that have allowed them to give all this away for free. But there's a magazine called the Magpie. You can subscribe to it. I've actually found it in some bookstores. We're in June 2020, so who knows what that'll look like going forward, but I've seen it in Barnes & Noble before. You can also order it online. But the cool thing is you can get the PDF absolutely free. So you can download it right here. Again, raspberrypi.org. Go to find the Magpie section, and then where it says download for free, you can download it to your phone, your tablet, or just a PDF to your computer. All the back issues, including the newest issues, again, we're in June 2020 here, the newest issues here, and you can go through the complete magazine 100% free. But you can also subscribe to it. Although in the United States, I don't think you can have it shipped to the United States. The subscription is only for UK folks. But I have seen it, like I said, in Barnes & Noble bookstore. Also, Raspberry Pi has Raspberry Pi Press that make books, so they make magazines and books. And so if you're really into, maybe you want to use the camera feature, the camera is something extra you have to buy for the Raspberry Pi. It's a $35, $45 add-on, but you can do some really amazing stuff. I'm actually doing an artificial intelligence project right now as we speak in June 2020 using the Raspberry Pi and the camera. So you can buy, or again, download completely free this guide on how to use the camera. This book I highly, highly recommend. They put one out, I think, quarterly, so 4 times a year. The newest one is from November of 2019, so maybe it's only a couple times a year. But a whole book of hundreds of projects to get started. This one doesn't necessarily give you step by step, but it gives you inspiration, right? I'm really into retro gaming, so retro gaming on a Raspberry Pi is perfect. So I actually purchased this. So you could purchase this on Amazon, I believe, because it's a book. But you can also download the PDF for free. Teaches you how to make a Raspberry Pi into a retro gaming machine, which I'm going to do a tutorial on that coming up soon. Getting Started magazine, and on and on and on, right? Learning to code in C, C++, lots and lots of books that you can download for free. Learning to program in C, on and on. So this can be the toughest part, honestly, is where to get started. But go to the raspberrypi.org website, click on projects, tinker around with some of those. I think you'll find some inspiration there. And then when you're ready for the next step, check out Raspberry Pi, the Raspberry Pi magazine and the Raspberry Pi books. Certainly young people can use them, but they're designed a little more for older students or adult learners. But certainly anybody that's curious would learn something for them. So once you've done the projects on the website, get yourself a copy of the magazine. You can pay for it, or get it completely free through the PDF, and then pick one of two of these books, or all of them really. They're really well written, and again, completely free to get started. So you have hours and hours, if not weeks, months, days, years of projects to work on. So the trick is, how do you find one, and how do you kind of sustain learning with those projects? And that's the trick, for any type of learning. But I think you have lots of places to look now if you didn't already know. So have fun.